in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Lottie and Albert Curate Crochet Box for January 2024. They tell us it's time to make a hot drink, grab a blanket, and get crocheting. It's the card they send me. Then they go on to talk about the yarn a little bit. Stylecraft Impressions is a new yarn inspired by the Impressionist painters. Their color palette and artistic style. I love variegated yarns like this that provide a softly striping pattern, dots and splashes of color. Plus, Aran weight is ideal for slipper socks. So, looks like we're making slipper socks. Your skills. It goes on to tell you that always wanted to crochet socks, but not sure where to start? Let's learn together with this simple introduction to the world of socks. Hello, my name is Sig, and this is Essential Crochet, and you are always welcomed here with us. So don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like buttons, comments. All of these things help to support the channel. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it helps me out quite a bit. Now let's get started. So for today's video, I'm going to start by discussing the yarn that came in the Lottie and Albert Curate box. Now the yarn that they give us is a Stylecraft. That is a standard UK yarn. And they give us their Aran weight, or at least their impressions come in Aran weight and their Stylecraft special Aran. So according to what I kind of know about this yarn, it's a pretty standard recognizable yarn out of the UK. Their Aran weight is supposed to be a premium acrylic, or at least a more premium acrylic on a budget. So yeah, the yarn itself is really soft. I don't know that I have a comparable yarn to this in terms of US yarns. I'm not. It's just different, right? So it's 100% acrylic, but like this Impressions yarn right here, it feels almost like it would have polyester in it. So let's actually look at the specs for this particular yarn. So it is 100% acrylic. And you get approximately 220 meters or 240 yards for your 100 grams. This yarn is made in Turkey. I guess this is newish to their collection of yarns, this Impressions. And so when I look at this, it very much does remind me of an impressionistic piece of artwork. So I think it's very aptly named. It's an Aran weight. And while it looks about a weight 4, it's very solid. It's very like thick filling. So there's not a lot of air in there. It's all yarn. It's all twist. So yeah, I would go with an Aran weight on that for sure. This particular yarn, the colorway is 5402 and the name is Parasol. They tell us that we can machine wash this. It's going to be, for the most part, on gentle, cool. And then we can tumble dry it on cool. We can dry clean it. And then they say that we can take a cool iron to this. Now, this is one of the few acrylic yarns that I've seen where they say you can take a cool iron to it. And I haven't tried it. And I don't know that I ever will try it because that just makes me go, huh. So that's what we have for this color. Now, the second color they give us is clearly also a Stylecraft yarn. It's their special Aran. This one, their colorway is 1820, also called duck egg. So yeah, it's about the color of a duck egg, or at least some ducks. not all ducks have a color this color. It actually reminds me of one of those, I don't know the name of the chicken, but the chicken that lays the little, what they call the Easter eggs, the little colored ones. This really reminds me a lot of one of those. See, so it is 100 grams, but I'm not seeing any other specs telling me how many meters or yards of yarn I'm going to get with this. Oh, wait, here we go. Never mind. I lied. So we're going to get 196 meters or 214 yards. They tell us it's naturally anti-pilling. And again, we're looking at a gentle wash with cooler water temperature. You can tumble dry it on low, or cool rather. You can iron it with a cool iron. And of course, you can dry clean this. Now, this suggests that we use a 5mm hook. And then also, the impressions yarn tells us that we can use a 4.5mm hook, or that would be the suggested size. So, that's interesting. And then, of course, these two colors, they are on the same value scale, but I don't see any of this duck egg color in the actual impression yarn. So, but otherwise, even so, I think they're still a pretty good match. So we'll see what that looks like once it's worked up, because they really are two different yarns as well, in thickness and in look. So let's see if I can put this up there a little closer so that you can see the difference between the yarns. Okay, so let's take a look at the book. So the book tells us that we're making socks. And the first clue was the box, because the little sticker used to close the box had socks on it. So that was an easy guess. These are called Sunday slipper socks, and it is a pattern by Michelle White. So, of course, we got more of the Sunday slipper socks. What they tell us should be in the kit is they give us a 6mm hook. So we have that right here. And the hook is actually kind of nice. I can already tell that the bar of the hook, the shaft goes all the way down, and that's nice. That adds a nice sense of stability. And then, of course, they have the little hole in the back that shows you that that bar does, in fact, go all the way through the length of the handle. So that tells me that this particular hook is a decent quality. And then, of course, they give us our yarns. So we've got the Style Craft Impressions, which we had there, right? And then also the Style Craft Special Aran, which we have there. Then they tell us that we have a Rico Design Sock Stop. And that is this right here, this product. So this is the product that you use to make your socks or your slippers non-slip. And then also a yarn needle. So really this, except for your scissors, this kit really just gives us everything we need in order to make this project. So again, I like to remind people that this is a kit, a subscription box that comes out of the UK. So the instructions are in UK terminology. So for those of you who are new to this, just remember you're going to want to convert your UK terminology over to US terminology. So we're going to go on down here, and we got the special pattern notes. I've placed these post-it notes over certain instructions and parts of the pattern because I'm not interested in infringing upon anyone's copyrights. So here we go into sock sizes with regards to feet size. So this is instructions on how to figure out the sizing of the sock you're going to make. Again, this is UK and EU sizes, but it's all easy enough to convert over to US sizes. So just keep that in mind. Then, of course, we get into some special stitches. With this Lottie and Albert Curate box, I understood that they introduced new and interesting stitches into their pieces. And so I can already see that with this first January box that I've received in terms of them talking about the extended double crochet. So in US terms, we would convert that and call that an extended single crochet. So that's interesting. And then of course we get into the pattern and start getting into the pattern. They seem to give us plenty of illustrations, and that's nice. I'm curious to see how well these illustrations help in terms of those who are more visual and need the visual imagery to coincide with the actual written instructions. Because I find sometimes the pictures they give you really aren't very helpful for a variety of reasons. So we'll see how helpful these pictures are when it comes to reading this pattern as I work through it. And of course, I will tell you my thoughts and my opinions and whether I considered this project to be a hit or a miss. Okay, so I think that's about it for this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to crochet up these slipper socks, and then I'll come right back here in just another moment and I'll reveal to you what the piece looks like. And again, I will go over my thoughts and impressions of working this particular project. Okay, so I'm back and I have slipper socks. Now, before I get on to talk about the slipper socks and how I felt about this particular pattern and the yarns that were used for this month's box, I would like to tell you that I used all of the yarn from the Impressions skein. So I used as much of that yarn as I could. I made the socks as long as they could be, so they come up pretty high on my shins, and you probably noticed that in the picture before we got started here with this next part of the video. And then this is what's left of the duck egg colored yarn. Also, we got lots and lots and lots of this sock stopper left. So this could come in handy for future projects for sure. Now the socks. So what I did with the socks was I followed the pattern, I crocheted them up, and then this time I did something a little different. I actually washed these socks because I was really curious as to how how the yarn worked up after being washed and dried according to the instructions. And I must say, the impression yarn did really well. It washed up and dried. There was no shrinkage. There was no peeling. I think there was a very slight halo, but I think that was more as a result of the drying process. And so once it was out of the dryer and had a chance to sit out for a little bit, for a few minutes, like that staticky clinginess kind of went away. The charge sort of dissipated. So it pretty much lost any of that kind of soft halo. Now, the duck egg colored yarn, which is actually a different yarn, same company, but different type of yarn. And we discussed that earlier in the video. This one, it got fuzzy. It's supposed to also be anti-peeling, but it fuzzed right up. I think this yarn is pretty. I think it's still super soft even after washing, even the yarn that got a little fuzzy, still super soft. I don't think this was a great yarn for this project. This yarn, and because I've worked with this yarn before again in another box, and you'll see that particular video come out in the future. And I kind of mentioned it in that video too, that I didn't think the yarn was appropriate for the project. There's no structure. So if I were going to make a sweater out of this, right, I would want it to be a really loose sweater. And then I'd have to be real careful because it wouldn't take much for this to get stretched out of shape very quickly. And I'm not really entirely sure how I feel about that. I don't know how quick it would bounce back into shape, if you know what I mean. Maybe you don't. I think you'll get a nice hang, like it'll hang, it'll drape nicely. But as far as structure is concerned, you're not going to get a lot of that with this particular yarn, although it's pretty. And where I see this yarn really being great for is like a baby blanket, because it's so soft and it just drapes. And so I can only imagine that it would make beautiful yarn for a baby blanket. The pattern itself, I actually followed the pattern, right? I didn't get too crazy. I didn't go ahead and do anything on my own. I didn't make any changes to the pattern. The one thing I did do different was just to elongate the sock itself. But otherwise, I still followed the pattern. I just added extra rows. And I think as far as an introductory into making socks, because I crochet socks, so this might make me a little more biased. And I wear the socks I crochet. So yeah, this was a different pattern. I don't know that I've ever come across a pattern quite like it. It was super simple. It did kind of throw me for a loop, only because I do crochet socks. And this pattern was almost a little counterintuitive, but also what I do though is I use like actual sock yarn. I use the lace weight. I use the fingering weight yarn for my socks. I don't make socks with an Aran weight yarn. I just don't. So I did that. I mean, you can see it crocheted up just quite nicely. The pattern, as kind of strange as I thought it was, the pattern, it worked out great. It was a sock pattern. However, I'm also going to say that I followed it according to the size of my foot, and these things, they came out way too big. Now, even if I put on a thick pair of socks, and in the image I showed with me wearing the socks to demonstrate them being finished and worn, I had really thick socks underneath those socks, and these socks were still way too big. And I followed the directions, and in terms of my foot size. Now, I think what I would do is, if I did this in the future, I would use a much smaller hook than they suggested and gave me in the kit. I thought it was a large hook to begin with, but hey, I went with it. And, because it was an Aran weight, so it wasn't an inappropriate hook to use with an Aran weight yarn. So I went with it, and I was a little dubious, but I was curious. So I just followed the directions exactly as I was instructed. And I got a perfectly good sock out of it, but it is just so huge. And for some people, this is going to be wonderful. If you're making this and you want to make this, I encourage you to go ahead and get this box and make it. If your feet are like large for whatever reason, like you have a lot of swelling, or you suffer from some edema, or you have some other thing that makes it hard for you to wear, let's say, normal size socks, you might really like this. This might be the thing for you, especially if you're using this really super soft yarn. You might find it actually preferable to a more structured yarn, because this is going to stretch over your foot and your leg, and it's going to be soft, and it's not going to be harsh or rub against your skin, or it's not going to impede your circulation. So in that case, I would say this is really good. My foot falls pretty much right in the middle of a medium-sized foot with regards to a lot of these patterns, right? I'm just solid average right down the middle. And so when I followed the directions for a medium-sized foot, oh boy. So all I can say is I can see wearing them and this getting stretched out pretty quickly. And then I have one floppy end and the other floppy end. So yeah, while I see the upside to these socks, I personally, for myself, am not happy with these socks. At the end of all of this, I liked the impression yarn quite a bit. I just didn't like it for this project. The other style craft yarn, we've worked with some of it before with the other box. And, the more I work with it, really, as far as the yarn is concerned, if I were purchasing yarn for myself and it didn't come in a kit, I would not buy this. This does not work for me. Maybe unless I was making a baby blanket. Otherwise, it's not really my style. It's not really what I'm looking for in a yarn. I suppose if I were making a baby blanket, like I said before, or maybe I were making, like, I wanted a nice soft sweater for a child, again, I would consider this yarn. But for myself, no, I think it has its applications, but as a go-to yarn, I'm not feeling this yarn. Also, the pattern, while I thought it was a little strange, it was different, is really what it was. Different than what I'm used to tackling when making my socks. These are just my thoughts and feelings on this. You may like a really super soft yarn. You may want a much bigger foot or slipper sock. You might be super happy with working with your socks with a much larger yarn to work your socks with. So these are all things to take into consideration with this particular project from this box. As usual, the company is always super nice. They're very, these people are really nice. They make you feel like they really care about getting the box to you as quickly as possible. They always add a little personal touch. They always send emails making sure that you liked your box or that everything was good with your box. So they come across as a very conscientious company, and I really like that. But unfortunately, this time around, I did not like this. So that's what I got to say today for this particular box. If you feel any different, if you think I'm off base, please mention it. Make a comment. If you like the yarn and you like the socks, absolutely don't let me dissuade you from anything. At the end of the day, you do you. I'm just here to give my opinion. You notice it's so hard to not like something from a company that just comes across as so nice. With that said, I'll just let you get to it, and I will see you on the other side. You have a great day now. Bye-bye.